It's Talk Funny, a podcast by Mark Bailey and other comics from all over. We ended up in Japan because a teacher friend of ours died. What did he have? 15 classes a week and a dental plan. The Talk Funny podcast from Nagoyaradio.com and Nagoyacomedy. Here's Mark Bailey.
Here's Mark Bailey.
So we're back with Talk Funny. I'm Mark Bailey. We're here with Steve B. Howard.
Hello.
So Steve, you have, we joke sometimes about one of the podcasts we like to listen to is the Joe Rogan Experience.
Yeah.
And he has a tendency to go into MMA tangents, which is something I'm not really into. I'm listening for his guests. His comedic guests are very funny. And his serious guests like
Sam Harris.
And lots of great authors. He's a very good interviewer, but if you have to be careful not to mention the word box.
Right.
I was in England on Boxing Day. You like boxing?
Brazilian jiu-jitsu.
Talking about yoga or fitness or fighting. But once he gets on that tangent, he tends not to get off of it. But you had a little bit of interest in martial arts before, right?
I can kind of identify because I think from what I remember him saying, he started practicing, I think it was Taekwondo when he was a teenager, and then he actually competed in competitions, and I know he was at one point thinking of becoming a professional kickboxer, but he said something about he got hit in the head too many times and realized that maybe that wasn't a good idea.
I find that hard to believe. You're talking about Joe Rogan was hit in the head a couple times too many?
It's not like it's a big target or anything.
Hey, man. Hey, what's up?
The THC has nothing to do with my brain damage.
It's a clean show, so I can't even imitate his intro. What's up, bitch? So, he seems to like, I think he was like a boxing instructor, and he taught one of the guys from his TV show or something. He got it. Yeah. He was a boxing teacher, or he wanted to be?
He was Taekwondo. He got his black belt in Taekwondo, and then he taught at his school for quite a while, and then he actually did compete. But I started studying like traditional karate probably when I was around, I think I started when I was around 12 and studied that for almost 4 years. Didn't get my black belt, but got really into it. And so I started studying it like late 70s, early 80s, and I think Joe Rogan was kind of around the same time. And so it was sort of a similar experience. The mixed martial arts and the UFC kind of came about in the early 90s, and I think for guys like me and Joe Rogan that started out in sort of traditional martial arts, once we started watching the UFC and MMA, you realize really quickly most of all that stuff you learn from traditional martial arts won't work. So it was a real eye opener.
Why won't it work?
Well, it just pretty much like what MMA has done is it really has simplified what will work for the most part in a street fight. So
they let you kick in the middle of boxing, things like that?
Well, right? So Thai boxing, Muay Thai is very, very effective in a street fight. Western boxing is very, very effective. Western wrestling for takedowns and getting somebody on the ground and keeping them on the ground is very, very effective. And then jiu-jitsu, or specifically Brazilian jiu-jitsu, is incredibly effective once you've got somebody on the ground to get them into a submission or a choke and end the fight. So, guys like me that started out with traditional karate doing kata and, the high kicks, all this really fancy stuff that you used to see in the old Chuck Norris and Bruce Lee movies, a lot of that stuff, the reality is in a real fight, it won't work. It'll probably get you hurt very badly.
So that's what sets this podcast apart from Joe Rogan. See, we don't talk about the stuff that we just talked about. Yeah. Hey, man, it's real. When he talks to comedians that I know have really very little interest in fighting and talking about fighting, and he always seems to sway. Once they get to that, I have to fast forward for another hour.
Well, generally the guys that when he starts talking about MMA, it's probably somebody that's practicing, jiu-jitsu or boxing or kickboxing or something. So
you have to be very careful as a comic guest on there. The guy will come in, Joe will be, "Hey, man, thanks for coming in, man," and then the guy will say only something like, "Yeah, traffic was brutal today." Hey, what's going to be brutal is that Mayweather versus Conor McGregor fight. That's going to be brutal. And they talk about that for an hour. But Joe Rogan has a real good interviewing technique. Sometimes he'll go off topic, like as I mentioned to Mike, he'll be like, the guy's telling the story, some guy's telling a story about how he met his wife, and he'll say, and I saw this girl standing next to a tree, and I walked up and talked to her. And Joe Rogan will say, what kind of tree was it? Can you smoke it? Because there's some kind of trees. There's some plants that they will change their aroma. When they hear a bug, they can hear. It's weird, man. It's weird. It's weird. It's interesting. It's really weird and interesting. It's like a drinking game, You say, every time he says weird, you take a shot of Jaeger. I bet you don't last 2 minutes through the show. Let's move on to, you also have an interest in, diet and nutrition, which is something that I'm still learning. I'm not very good at it. And what have you learned with the different things you've tried?
Well, again, I mean, it's a very, very hit and miss. But I messed around quite a bit with like juice fasting and smoothie fasting and stuff. Primarily because I just wanted to lose weight, and then also I found that when I did like a 21-day juice fast or smoothie fast, of course I'd lose a lot of weight, but for 6 or 7 months after that, I always felt like I had a lot more energy and just felt better all around. Usually twice a year now, I'll do like a 21-day juice fast or smoothie fast, and pretty much just drink fruit juices or take whole fruit and blend it up in the blender and drink that over the course of the day.
And how does when you have a Japanese wife, what part of that does she understand at all? I mean, how many times does she still make dinner during your fast?
When I first started doing it, it was a bit of a challenge because, again, why aren't you eating white rice? The most nutritious food on the planet, right? But she did see the benefits of course, me losing weight, but also just she noticed that I seemed a lot more healthy and a lot more energetic. So she's kind of she doesn't do it herself, but she kind of got behind that a little bit with me. So she's tolerant if I tell her, okay, the next 21 days I'm not going to be eating dinner with you guys. I'm going to be doing a juice fast, and she actually will support me on that now. So. And
you don't sit at the table when they're having dinner, right? When you're on the fast, that's just too much temptation, right?
Yeah, I mean, now I've done it enough years that I can actually sit while everybody else is eating, and it doesn't really bother me that much. But yeah, a lot of times because I drink, I pretty much just put it into like a big 1 or 2 thermoses and just drink it over the course of the day if I start to feel hungry or something. So I don't, when I'm doing the juice fast, I'm usually not sitting there at the dinner table with them. Yeah.
I tried it I was able to do it for about 6 days. But every time I came home, my wife had put the blender up. I'm like, just leave this out. I'm going to be using this every day, a couple of times. And she's like, well, it's just in the way, and I'm trying to prepare food. I'm like, I think you're missing the point of fast.
Right.
I'm not eating any food. You don't have to prepare anything for me, and you eat with your mother, so there's really no food to prepare, She, after 23 years, she doesn't even she still doesn't understand kosher. I think the vegetarian and the gluten-free stuff is even above her, her pay grade. I mean, I can't wait till the Olympics happen here because you have people from the States who don't speak Japanese asking restaurants, is this rice gluten-free? Like, how do you say that in Japanese? And it'd be like, so you're kosher, what is that? You don't eat carrots? What is that? And halal and all the different, we have there's allergies, there's peanut allergies, and I don't know how people are going to eat at restaurants in Japan because the Japanese restaurateurs, they're kind of like shogun. They think of themselves as the master of the restaurant. And it's like, well, here we serve asparagus with bacon, so I don't care. I don't know what you're talking about, Abraham, to me, but anyway, here's what you order. No, I don't want the bacon part. I just want the asparagus, but it comes with bacon. Yeah, but I don't want it. I'll pay for it. I don't want the bacon with it. What, you don't like asparagus? I don't know how that's going to go.
Yeah.
So here's a question: why don't you do the fasting always? The juice fasting, is that just there's a documentary of a guy who did it for a couple of years, but is that even healthy?
I mean, the stuff I've read, I mean, there's a lot of debate, but some doctors even say doing a 21-day juice fast isn't really all that healthy because your body kind of goes into shock. But yeah, I just, for me, like I said, twice a year is usually really good for me. What I'm trying to get out of it, drop a few kilos and then just feel a little more energy and feel a little more healthy. That's really all I'm trying to get out of it. So I don't feel like I need to go to extremes and do it for 3 years or whatever some of these people do.
One of the things you mentioned to me, like over the course of about a year and a half ago, I think you mentioned one time that you just gave up fried potatoes.
Yeah.
And chips, things like that with
Yeah.
the polysaturated oils. And I did that. I'm still on that.
Yeah.
I just don't touch that anymore.
Right.
And I feel better. It makes you.
Yeah.
There's something like if you eat French fries and then you go home and you try to actually eat a healthy meal, it doesn't taste good to you because you're addicted to the oil and the salt.
Right. Yeah.
You want to eat more junk food.
Yeah.
And I gave up as much as I could. They call them fried potatoes here.
Yeah.
French fries and chips. I rarely eat chips. That's about. I mean, for me, that's a major coup, and it makes a lot of difference. And there's nothing healthy about that stuff anyway. There's not one healthy thing about it. And what other fads have you tried? Diet fads, and which ones didn't work at all for you?
Well, the one that was really the worst experience I had was I tried to do this lemon juice fast, and it was I kind of question the science behind it now. But
where did you find this?
Well, there was a little book going around called the Master Cleanse, and it was I'm not sure if I can remember all of the ingredients, but it was water, pure lemon juice, and I know one of the ingredients was maple syrup, 100% pure maple syrup, and I think that's actually where I went wrong. So it was it was supposed to be a 10-day fast, and so I started out and I was doing this lemon juice, maple syrup, water fast. I think there was one other ingredient I can't remember, but the first 6 or 7 days it was going pretty good, and I was going to the local grocery store in Chikusa where I was living at the time, and they had 100% Canadian maple syrup, and on the 5th day of the fast, they ran out. I basically bought all of their Canadian maple syrup out, and so I bought this Japanese maple syrup from Hokkaido, and I found out later that some of the maple syrups, if it's not 100% pure, they add formaldehyde.
Wow.
And that, I think, is what did me in, because on the 9th day, I ended up with really severe stomach pains, and what had happened is I severely dehydrated myself, and I ended up having to go to the hospital. But I think the maple syrup with the formaldehyde in it is what pushed me over the limit. So that was probably the worst experience I had with fasting.
So they put formaldehyde in it, obviously to preserve it.
Right.
And they're assuming that you're going to use that a serving is maybe one drop.
Yeah, you're not going to do something stupid like try to survive on that lemon juice and water for 10 days.
Right.
Yeah. But I think that, obviously my body was depleted already after 6 days of only drinking water, lemon juice, and maple syrup. But I think with the formaldehyde, that's what pushed me over the edge and ended up with severe dehydration.
So when you do your juicing, what do you use? Because vegetables are extremely expensive here.
Yeah, I use a lot of avocados actually because apparently now fat is good.
Yeah.
If you listen to Joe Rogan again, but a lot of avocados, partially for the fat, but also because I try to consume like 1,500 calories a day. I found myself.
Oh, I do that easy.
Yeah. Well,
it's called breakfast.
Yeah, but I'm just to get through the entire day and feel good. I found for me I need at least 1,500 calories, and so avocados are a really good source. Obviously bananas. I think one banana, medium-sized banana, is about 100 calories. So 2 or 3 bananas.
But when you make the juice, like bananas can't make juice from it. Actually,
well,
right?
I make a smoothie actually.
Right.
I don't do the pure juice fast anymore. I do more of a smoothie. So.
And they have a lot of these vegetable fruit mixes now you buy at the store, but they seem so full of sugar to me, and it's very heavy on the fruit.
Right. And
most of us get enough sugar. You don't need that from the fruit.
Yeah.
But what I like, I drink a lot of vegetable juice, but I think it's pretty high in sodium actually.
Right.
But it's very good. But I asked my wife before I gave her a list of vegetables to get. And I told her I was going to make some juice. I was going to juice with it. That's all I was going to eat. So she bought all that stuff, and it was there for about a couple hours. Then she made a salad. She's making a salad for me. I'm like, well, I can't put this into the blender now because it's got croutons in it. So the juice has croutons and Thousand Island sauce in it.
Yeah. I mean, and of course, there's a lot of people, of course, that have written books on this and supposed experts and stuff. But in my case, I just, after experimenting over a couple of years, I found what seems to work for me, and I just go with that. So there's probably be a lot of people that would dispute what I'm saying here. But I really think if you're going to do these types of fasts or any type of dieting, you really have to find out what works for you, and just try to find something that makes you feel good, makes you feel healthy, and if you can get to a weight, drop the pounds and get to a weight that you are happy with, that should be your goal.
Well, Joe Rogan mentioned one time he likes to boast that he is in good shape. He likes to boast that he's in good shape.
Yeah.
He says,